This is the Suunto Run. It's a brand new entry-level running watch. Think Coros Pace 3 or Garmin Forerunner 55, that sort of thing. This is the first time I've used a Suunto running watch, and they were kind enough to reach out to me and give me this one for free for this review. But this video is not sponsored. I'm a big fan of the hardware design. The branding is pretty minimal. There's a small printed logo on the bottom of the bezel, and there's a kind of larger embossed logo on the side, but it's pretty subtle. Neither of which are particularly visible from the front of the watch, so it means it's not too in your face. The strap, however, is not quite so subtle. As you can see, it's got a rather large printed logo on it, and that is in a reflective material. But obviously you are able to change that. Incidentally, you get two sizes of watch strap in the box, so regardless of whether you've got small wrists like me or rather large ones, the chances are you're going to get one that fits. Particularly if you're going to get one of these ones, which are sort of infinitely adjustable. The back of the case is tapered towards the wrist, and this makes the watch feel smaller than it actually is, which I rather like. Depending on the colour you choose, you will either get a black bezel like this, or you will get a silver bezel. Both are stainless steel. The black bezel on this one, the lime that I have here, is like a matte painted finish, and it's really nice, and actually has stood up to a fair bit of wear and tear already. The case itself is made from a glass fibre reinforced polyamide, which at this point is pretty standard. It also means that it is super tough and lightweight. This thing weighs just 36 grams, and honestly you do kind of forget that you've got it on. Dimensions are 46 by 46 by 11.5 millimeters, which is actually a really nice size. It's not the smallest watch that I've got, but it's definitely not the biggest. So I think it probably would suit men and women. It's a 1.3 inch AMOLED display, which is bright and sharp. In fact, it's so bright that for the most part I've had it set to a medium brightness, which is plenty bright enough for me. You can set the display to always on, where you're going to get a black and white outline of the watch face that you've selected, and it does so on a 466 by 466 pixel display, so it really is sharp. One issue I have had with the display is that there's no screen lock unless you're in an activity, and it's a touchscreen display, so that's not ideal. In fact, there's no button lock either, so I constantly find myself unintentionally in menus or starting activities. This is a particular issue when you're in the shower, for example. The water hitting the screen will activate all kinds of activities or go deep into some menu without you even realizing it. It's really quite frustrating that you can't just add a screen lock. This is especially frustrating when you realize that other Suunto devices actually do have screen lock features, like this other Suunto here, which is the Race S. Review on this coming soon. You can lock the screen on this so that you don't get any of that unintended behavior. I did ask Suunto about this, and they did say it was in fact the case, that there was no lock, and they didn't mention that there would be one added anytime soon, so I don't know whether this is going to change or whether that's just a feature of this particular watch. All that said, the touchscreen is super responsive, so when you do intend to use it, it works very well. It should also be pretty strong because it features Gorilla Glass, and as yet I have no scratches on my version. The Run features a 3-button design, one of which is also a rotating crown, as well as the aforementioned touchscreen, which you will know by now if you've watched some of my other running watch reviews is not actually that high on my list of features required for a running watch. That said, you can control 100% of the watch using just the buttons, so you need never use the touchscreen if you don't want to. Although I don't think you can turn it off, so again, there's still the potential to accidentally use it. Personally, I find it quite important to have buttons on a running watch because when you've got sweaty fingers, it's pretty difficult to control a touchscreen. Pulling down from the top or swiping up from the bottom will take you into the control panel and all of your apps. Or widgets. It seems like the terms are interchangeable depending on which part of the watch or the app you're looking at, but more on those in a minute. Alternatively, you can do the same by using the rotating crown. Again, rotate forward or back will either take you to the bottom of the menu or the top. From here, a single press, tap or swipe right will take you into each app. Touchscreen gestures are fairly intuitive. Swipe left to go back, swipe right to go forward, tap to confirm. Pretty standard. It's nothing you haven't seen before and they work well. Alternatively, if buttons are your thing, then you've got a dedicated back button which is the bottom of the three. Depressing the crown will work as the confirmation button, and the top button is a kind of contextual one depending on where you are in the system, depends on what it does. When you're on the home screen, it will default to being your activity button. Again, most of this is fairly standard across multiple brands of running watches. If you've had a running watch before, then you're going to be able to figure out how to use this one pretty easily. There are a number of apps or widgets you can choose from, and you can choose which ones you want to see when you pull up from the bottom of the watch. You can choose which ones you want to see either on the watch or by using the Suunto app on your phone. If you want to choose the order of those apps or widgets, then you need to do that on the phone, so it's probably easiest just to do the whole thing on there. All this apps on the phone and apps on the watch is getting a little bit confusing, so for the purposes of the rest of this video, I'm just going to call them widgets. Each widget will give you some information at a glance as you scroll through them, and then obviously once you tap into them, you will be able to see some more information. Once you're in the widget, you can scroll down and you can see some more detail, and some of them have additional settings at the bottom. And I've got to say, overall, the widgets are nicely designed. The information is clear and bright, and they give you a good range of metrics. Let me know down in the comments if you would like me to do a more detailed walkthrough of these widgets like I have done for previous watches in the past. The maximum battery life for the watch is 20 days, but you're not going to be doing very much with it. It's basically just going to tell you the time, and even then I don't think it's going to do it with an always on display. If you want a more usable watch, then Suunto states that you can get 12 days in smartwatch mode. Again, you're not going to be tracking a bunch of activities and listening to music offline, for example. In my testing, I got an average of 4 to 5 days, depending on how many activities I tracked in that period. But this is with the always on display enabled and notifications turned on and heart rate tracking and all that good stuff, which in my opinion is pretty decent. It does mean you're not going to be reaching for the charger every other day, for example. The maximum time you're going to be able to track GPS is 40 hours, but that's going to be in the power saving mode. If you want everything turned on, then it's going to be more like 20. In my testing, it took just 5 minutes to get 10% charge. After half an hour, you'll hit 50%. If you charge for an hour, you're going to get to 80%, and to get that final 20%, it's going to take about another 10 minutes. The charger attaches to the watch magnetically, as most of them do now, but it's actually different to previous Suunto devices. So if you've already got a Suunto device, then you're going to need to use the charger that comes in the box for the run, because the other one doesn't work. It's now got 4 points of contact versus just 2 on previous models, but the magnets are no stronger and it falls off just as easily. You do get a bit of play with the placement because the contacts on the back of the watch are slightly elongated, but honestly it's still that same balancing act where basically the easiest way to get it to charge is to put the watch face down and attach the charger to it that way, but then you can't actually see if it's charging. So it's still not ideal, but again, this is kind of common amongst most of the running watch brands. The charging cable is also about as long as you'd expect it to be, which is not very. The Run doesn't support any streaming services like Spotify, but you can control your connected device. It also has offline music playback, but it's not a great deal of storage on the watch, it's only 4 gigabytes. I would love to tell you that I've extensively tested this feature, but I haven't. When I tried to connect it to my Mac, it simply wasn't recognized. Now I did reach out to Suunto to ask if this should work with a Mac, and I'm told that it should, and it should just connect like any other removable storage device, but unfortunately for me I was unable to connect, so I wasn't able to test it. With the sample music that's already on the device, I did have a little look at the controls and they actually look quite intuitive, but again, without a full test, I don't know. If I get a chance to test it before this video is finished, I will insert it now. Aside from customizing which widgets you can see when you pull up from the bottom of the watch and whether you want notifications or the display always on, you can also customize the watch face, but it is pretty limited. In fact, there are only 8 to choose from on the device itself, and as far as I can tell, you can't actually add any others from within the app. Once you choose one of those 8 preloaded faces, you can also customize the accent color, but again, that's pretty limited because there are only 6 colors to choose from on each. Customization for activities, however, is much more in depth. You can customize up to 10 screens for each sport, and you can have up to 4 fields per screen. So the simple math is that that allows you to do 40 different metrics per sport. You can choose what's displayed from multiple different data points across 11 different categories. There are 32 different activities included on the run, and all of them have multiple modes, some up to 5. There's also the option to create your own modes within each of those sports. When you swipe into your list of activities, you will see the 5 most frequently used at the top and then all the others at the bottom. Now, I can tell you that some of those most frequently used activities are not frequently used by me, they are just shower triggered. So bear that in mind. As far as I can tell, there's no way to remove unwanted sports from the watch. You can remove unwanted modes in the phone app, but you can't remove the sport altogether. So that seems like a bit of a miss. Also, I can't see a way to favourite activities to the top of the list, so I think it's just a case of relying on your most frequent activities to sit at the top. Performance is easily on par with other brands I've tested, and I've experienced no issues with the routes captured or the distance measured. And here's an example of the accuracy when I took a small lap of the car park during the middle of a run. The watch picks up a signal very quickly and usually indoors without issue. It covers all the 5 main satellites. Sleep tracking is somewhat accurate, the start and end times seem to be about right, but occasionally I think it overestimates the total length of sleep, and it's also missed off chunks of the end of a sleep when I've woken up early in the morning and then gone back to sleep. But to be honest, I would say it's about as accurate as most other sleep trackers. As for the sleep states, well, I'm asleep, so it's difficult to comment on how accurate they are. But what I can say is that I'm clearly not getting enough of it. It's waterproof up to 50 meters, so don't worry about it in the shower and don't worry about it in the pool. The run starts at £199 and it ends at £199, which is pretty cool. It doesn't matter whether you choose the textile strap or the silicone strap or which colour you get. They're all the same price, which is nice to see. It's available in 4 colours: black, coral grey, and this one, lime. Personally, I would prefer the silicone strap. As you can see, this one has become rather dirty. It's also worth mentioning that the small piece of aluminium that normally sits on the end of this strap came off within the first couple of days. So hopefully that won't happen to yours if you get that, and it's probably just a flaw of this particular strap on my particular model. But it happened to me, so I'm mentioning it to you. It should go without saying that you can obviously change the strap, and it has quick release pins, and Suunto would very much like to sell you a different colour band if you so wish, and they've got a bunch of colours in silicone and textile. The time to stand feature doesn't appear to take any notice of whether you've been standing or not. I think it seems to just go off on a regular interval. So personally, I would just turn that off. When Do Not Disturb is active, the always on display turns off, which is somewhat expected, but if you're thinking it's just going to turn off your notifications, then it's not. It's also going to turn off the display. So just something to bear in mind. The Suunto app doesn't allow you to have more than one device connected at once. So if you've got more than one Suunto device, then you will need to disconnect one and then resync the other. This is probably not a big issue for most people. Obviously, I've been testing 2 Suunto watches at the same time, so I've been flipping between the 2. But I know there are some people that like to use one device for running and another one for swimming, for example. So if that's you, just know that you're going to have to be doing a lot of disconnecting and resyncing. In total, I've ran a little over 60k using the Suunto Run so far, and overall it's been a pleasurable experience. It's a very comfortable, lightweight and easy to use device. There are a few niggles like the lack of a lock screen, for example, but the price point for the features you get is pretty impressive. In fact, at this price point, there aren't any other watches that feature the AMOLED display, so if that's important to you, then I really would consider picking one of these up. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Will you be looking into getting a Suunto Run? Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.